No one could handle the billionaire's daughter until a single black janitor did the impossible, and that discovery would cost dearly those who dared to underestimate him. Are you sure you want to leave this man alone with your daughter? Victoria Hammond's question echoed through the executive office, dripping with a venom disguised as maternal concern, the kind only high society people can master. Diana Westbrook, CEO of Westbrook Industries and one of the most powerful women in the country, hesitated for a moment. Before her, Marcus Thompson stood motionless, discreetly holding a cleaning cloth as he watched the 6-year-old child cowering behind the imported mahogany desk. Little Sophia had driven away 17 nannies in 6 months. Renowned therapists had given up after a single session. Even Diana herself could barely approach her daughter without triggering panic attacks that lasted for hours. "Mom, with all due respect," Diana said coldly, $12,000 a week and specialists couldn't even get my daughter to look at them. If Marcus gets 5 minutes of peace, it'll be a miracle." Victoria adjusted her Cartier glasses, analyzing Marcus as if he were a museum curiosity. "Honey, do you really believe that a janitor can solve what Harvard-trained doctors couldn't?" Marcus, 34, worked 3 jobs to support his diabetic mother and pay for a 1-bedroom apartment in Queens. No one in that gilded Manhattan building knew that he spent his early mornings studying child psychology online, or that he always carried a small storybook in his uniform pocket. "Mrs. Victoria," Marcus spoke for the first time, his calm voice cutting through the tension. "Sometimes children just need someone who isn't afraid to sit on the floor with them." The silence that followed was broken by an unexpected sound. Sophia had stopped crying. Diana looked at Marcus with an expression he couldn't quite read. Gratitude, surprise, or something more dangerous. Hope. "One chance," Diana murmured. "Just one." Victoria sighed dramatically, gathering her Hermes bag. "Well, when this goes wrong, don't say I didn't warn you. Some people just can't understand certain responsibilities." As Victoria stomped out in her $1,000 heels, Marcus slowly knelt beside the desk. From his pocket, he pulled out something that made Sophia lift her head for the first time in weeks. At that moment, neither Diana nor Victoria knew they were witnessing the beginning of something that would completely change their lives, because Marcus Thompson kept secrets people like Victoria could never imagine. Secrets that would soon turn their condescension into utter despair. If you're enjoying this story of twists and justice, don't forget to subscribe. Because what happened in the next few hours would prove that underestimating someone based on skin color and social class can cost more than any rich person could imagine. What Marcus had taken from his pocket was a small book of children's stories with worn pages and handwritten notes in the margins. Sophia stared at him, her eyes red from crying, finally showing a glimmer of curiosity. "It's about a boy who lost his father," Marcus said softly, sitting down on the marble floor as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "But he discovers his father is still with him, in a special way." Diana watched in silence, barely able to believe it. In 6 months, no one had even managed to get Sophia to lift her head. In the days that followed, Victoria Hammond intensified her campaign to protect the Westbrook family from what she considered a dangerous and reckless decision. "Diana, dear, are you really going to entrust Sophia to an employee?" Victoria asked during lunch at Manhattan's most exclusive private club, lowering her voice on the word employee as if it were contagious. "Think of the responsibility. Think of what the other mothers will say." Around them, society women whispered between bites of $40 organic salad. Diana knew those looks, the same ones that had questioned her ability to run her father's company after his death 5 years earlier. "Marcus has gotten results," Diana said firmly. "Results." Victoria laughed, a sharp sound that made several heads turn. "Darling, you're confusing charity with competence. This man is clearly taking advantage of your vulnerability. How many of these guys have you seen trying to infiltrate families like ours?" What Victoria didn't know was that at that very moment, Marcus was in the Westbrook apartment, not only caring for Sophia, but observing every detail of the family dynamics with the precision of someone who understood childhood trauma far better than anyone in that gilded environment could imagine. While Sophia drew beside him, Marcus discreetly jotted notes in a small notebook. Child exhibits classic symptoms of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, selective social avoidance, responds positively to narratives of overcoming adversity, requires unconventional therapeutic approach. The truth was that Marcus wasn't just a janitor who studied psychology in his spare time. At 28, he had been one of Boston's most promising child therapists, a Harvard graduate specializing in family trauma. He had lost everything: his career, his apartment, his fiancée, after being falsely accused of misconduct by an influential family that didn't want to pay his fees. 6 years later, he was rebuilding his life brick by brick, working jobs no one in the elite would consider worthy, studying voraciously to return to what he loved most, helping broken children become whole again. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" Sophia asked suddenly, interrupting his thoughts. Marcus smiled, putting away his notebook. "Because I've been broken too, and when you're broken, you learn to recognize other people who are broken. But broken doesn't mean defective, it means you've survived something difficult." That night, Victoria called Diana 3 times. "I found out some things about your employee," she said, venom dripping from every word. "He was fired from his previous job in Boston. Serious accusations. Do you really want to risk Sophia's safety?" Diana felt a chill in her stomach. What kind of accusations? The kind that men like him often face when they try to get too close to families like ours. "I warned you, Diana. People of that social level always have ulterior motives." What Victoria had discovered was only half the story. Marcus Thompson was about to prove that underestimating someone based on skin color and social class is not just morally wrong, it can be devastatingly costly. Every humiliation, every whispered comment, every condescending glance was being carefully documented by a man who had learned the hard way that sometimes the best defense is a strategic and surgical exposure of the truth. While Manhattan's elite planned his exclusion, Marcus was organizing something far more powerful: irrefutable proof of his competence and integrity. And when the time came, people like Victoria would discover that there are terrible consequences for those who tried to destroy a man who has already lost everything and has nothing left to lose but his dignity. 3 weeks later, Victoria had turned her personal crusade against Marcus into a systematic campaign of destruction. Calls were made to the right people: members of the Westbrook Industries Board, other high society families, even her elite social media contacts. "It's just not appropriate," Victoria whispered during her exclusive lunches at the Metropolitan Club. A woman of Diana's standing allowing a cleaning employee unrestricted access to her daughter. Imagine if something happened. The strategy was subtle, but devastatingly effective. Seemingly innocent comments about parental responsibility and dangerous precedents began to circulate among Manhattan's elite. Diana began receiving concerned calls from investors, board members, even other mothers at Sophia's private school. During this time, Marcus continued his work with Sophia, fully aware of the storm brewing around him. Each morning, he would arrive at the Westbrooks' apartment to find the girl a little more open, a little more willing to smile. "Marcus," Sophia said one morning, showing him a drawing, "I drew you here, with me and Mom. Are we a family now?" Marcus's heart tightened. "Family is who chooses to stay with you even when things get tough," he said, knowing full well how tough things were about to get. What Diana nor Victoria knew was that Marcus had been meticulously documenting every interaction, every suspicious comment, every attempt at sabotage. His small apartment in Queens had become a discreet operations center, organized with the precision of a lawyer. In one blue folder, he kept all of Diana's text messages showing Sophia's progress. In another, legally obtained audio recordings, with Diana's consent, of their therapy sessions. And in the third, the most important folder of all, the complete documentation of his career in Boston, including the real circumstances of his dismissal. Marcus hadn't been fired for misconduct. He'd been persecuted by the Wellington family after refusing to falsify a psychological report that would have exonerated their son from abuse allegations. When Marcus stood firm, they used their influence to destroy his career. But Marcus had saved everything: emails, recordings, documents, proof of his innocence and of the conspiracy against him. For 6 years, he had waited patiently for the right moment. And now, watching Victoria Hammond repeat the same pattern of behavior, Marcus realized that moment had arrived.
Dr. Martinez, Marcus called on the phone at night, calling his former Harvard colleague. I need a favor. Dr. Carmen Martinez, a child neuropsychologist at Boston Children's Hospital, had been one of the few who believed in him. Marcus, of course, anything. How are you? Working with a traumatized child in New York, I need a second professional opinion and maybe expert testimony about my methods. Carmen laughed softly, still using that unconventional approach that drove the professors crazy. Of course I'll help. Send me the details. As Victoria intensified her attacks, spreading increasingly poisonous rumors about Marcus, he continued to work quietly.
The door opened. Marcus entered, not in his janitor's uniform, but in an elegant charcoal suit, carrying a leather briefcase. His posture was straight, confident. Victoria almost choked on her wine. "Diana, what is this?" "Ladies," Marcus said, his voice clear and steady, "allow me to introduce myself properly. Dr. Marcus Thompson, PhD in child psychology from Harvard Medical School, specializing in trauma and cognitive development at Massachusetts General Hospital." The silence was deafening. Patricia's whisper was barely audible. "Impossible." Marcus calmly opened his briefcase. "Over the past few weeks, I have documented every comment, every attempt at sabotage, every manifestation of racial prejudice I have received from you. It's all here." He handed each woman an identical folder: audio recordings, screenshots of messages, third-party testimonies. Victoria opened hers with trembling hands. Inside were complete transcripts of her phone calls with Diana, screenshots of her messages in the Ladies of Manhattan WhatsApp group where she had spread lies about Marcus, and photos of her whispering at social events. You recorded us?" Margaret stammered. "Only when you were discussing me in public places," Marcus replied politely. "All perfectly legal. But that's only the first part." Diana stood. "Marcus, tell them about Boston." "With pleasure." Marcus projected images onto the wall. "In 2018, I was the youngest child therapist ever to receive Harvard's Award for Excellence in Pediatric Trauma. I worked with Boston's most influential families, including the Wellingtons." Victoria paled. The Wellingtons were practically royalty in American high society. "When I refused to falsify a psychological report to protect their son from accusations of sexual abuse against a nanny," Marcus continued, "they orchestrated a campaign to destroy my career, just as you tried to do here." Court documents, emails, and recorded admissions appeared on the screen. "The difference," Marcus said quietly, "is that this time I was prepared." Susan Blackwood tried to rise. I need to go." "Please, stay," Marcus said with a calm smile. "Dr. Carmen Martinez, head of child neuropsychology at Boston Children's Hospital, is joining us on Zoom." The screen changed to reveal a middle-aged woman in a white coat. "Good evening, ladies. I'm Dr. Martinez. I can confirm that Dr. Thompson is not only one of the most brilliant therapists I've ever worked with, but also the most honest. The accusations in Boston were completely fabricated. We have full evidence." She continued, "And I can also confirm that little Sophia Westbrook's progress under Dr. Thompson's care has been extraordinary. In 3 weeks, he's achieved results that entire teams of specialists couldn't achieve in months." Victoria finally found her voice, but it came out as a broken squeak. That's absurd. You can't humiliate us like this." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Miss Victoria, I have merely presented facts. The humiliation comes from your own actions." Diana stepped forward. "Marcus, you called 6 members of my board, spreading lies about Marcus. You told other mothers at Sophia's school that I was putting my daughter in danger. You even told my building's concierge that Marcus was dangerous." Each accusation was followed by evidence: recordings, messages, testimonies. Patricia attempted one last defense. But he's just an employee." Dr. Martinez chuckled from the screen. "Dr. Thompson has published 17 articles in international medical journals, consulted for the WHO on child trauma policy, and turned down job offers from Stanford and Yale to serve low-income families in Boston." Marcus picked up another document. "Now, ladies, we have a decision to make. I could sue each of you for defamation, harassment, and racial discrimination. The damage to my reputation alone is worth hundreds of thousands." The terror in their eyes was unmistakable. Their husbands, their positions, their empires, everything could be destroyed by a racial discrimination scandal. Or, Marcus continued, you can use your influence for something productive, for the first time in your lives. Diana smiled. Marcus is opening a treatment center for traumatized children in Manhattan, a place where any child, regardless of income, can receive world-class care. You will fund it, Marcus added, and you'll use your social platforms to promote racial equality and inclusion. Consider it social reparation. Victoria tried to protest, but Margaret silenced her with a look. They all knew there was no alternative. How much? Susan asked, defeated. $2 million to start, Diana replied casually. Each of you will contribute $500,000. It's less than you spend on handbags in a year. As the four women signed checks with trembling hands, Marcus calmly gathered his documents. Oh, and ladies, and smiling, Sophia asked if I'd be her permanent teacher. I said yes. So we'll be seeing each other often. The dinner ended with four of Manhattan's most powerful women walking silently to their cars, carrying not only the humiliation of defeat, but the knowledge that they had been outmatched by a man they had so grotesquely underestimated. 6 months later, the Marcus Thompson Center for Advanced Child Therapy occupied 3 floors of an elegant Upper East Side building. The name, engraved in gold letters at the entrance, was impossible to ignore. Sophia ran through the hallways laughing and hugging children arriving for their sessions. The same girl who had once terrified 17 nannies, now the center's unofficial little ambassador. Dr. Thompson, Diana said, looking out from her office, 10 new children on the waiting list today, families from 5 states. Marcus smiled beneath his white coat, the Harvard emblem stitched over his heart. And they will all pay what they can afford, no more. His payment model was revolutionary. Wealthy families paid premium rates, fully subsidizing care for low-income patients. Victoria and her friends had not only funded the center, they were now listed as founding patrons of a social inclusion project. The irony was exquisite. Women who had tried to destroy Marcus' race and class were now celebrated publicly as champions of equality, forced to smile at social events where Marcus was praised as a hero. 3 weeks earlier, the New York Times had run a front-page story. The janitor who revolutionized child therapy in Manhattan. The photo showed Marcus beside Sophia, both smiling. Victoria had read the article 5 times, each word cut deeper. Her social circle had begun to quietly ostracize her. Invitations stopped. Her influence faded. Marcus, meanwhile, was thriving. 3 universities had offered him professorships. The American Psychological Association had named him Innovator of the Year. His methods were being studied in 12 countries. One afternoon, as Marcus walked through Central Park with Sophia, she tugged his hand. Will you still be my therapist when I grow up? Whenever you need me, princess. But I think soon you'll be the one helping others. That week, Marcus received an unexpected call. Dr. Thompson, this is Michael Wellington from Boston. We'd like to talk about that misunderstanding. The family that had once ruined him now offered $2 million and a public apology. Their son had confessed, confirming everything Marcus had reported years earlier. I don't need the money, Marcus said calmly, but I want the apology published in the same paper that printed the lies. A few days later, Marcus ran into Victoria in the lobby of a corporate tower. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Dr. Thompson, she whispered. Miss Victoria, he replied politely, holding the door open. I just wanted to say that I'm proud to have contributed to the center. I'm glad to hear that, Marcus said with a calm smile. Sophia always asks about the kind ladies who made it all possible. Victoria knew it wasn't forgiveness. It was grace, and it hurt more. She would forever be remembered as the woman who tried to destroy a hero, yet ended up funding his triumph. Marcus learned that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, it's forcing them to finance your success while watching their own irrelevance grow. Today, when children of every background laugh and play in the hallways of the center that bears his name, Marcus Thompson knows he has won in a way no lawsuit ever could. Victoria tried to destroy a brilliant black man because of prejudice. Instead, she destroyed her own reputation while building his empire. The lesson is simple. When you underestimate someone because of their skin color, class, or past, you're not just being cruel, you're being foolish enough to finance your own defeat. If this story of justice and resilience touched you, subscribe for more tales where intelligence and dignity triumph over arrogance and prejudice. Tell us, have you ever faced discrimination? How did you rise above it? Because sometimes, the best revenge is simply to be so brilliant that your enemies are forced to applaud you while dying of envy.